Book 2, Chapter 1 of Principles of Economics. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Carl Manchester, 2007. Principles of Economics by Alfred Marshall. Book 2. Some Fundamental Notions. Chapter 1. Introductory. Section 1. We have seen that economics is, on the one side, a science of wealth, and on the other, that part of the social science of man's action in society which deals with his efforts to satisfy his wants, insofar as the efforts and wants are capable of being measured in terms of wealth, or its general representative, i.e. money. We shall be occupied during the greater part of this volume with these wants and efforts, and with the causes by which the prices that measure the wants are brought into equilibrium with those that measure the efforts. For this purpose we shall have to study in Book 3 wealth in relation to the diversity of man's wants, which it has to satisfy, and in Book 4 wealth in relation to the diversity of man's efforts by which it is produced. But in the present book we have to inquire which of all the things that are the result of man's efforts and are capable of satisfying man's wants are to be counted as wealth, and into what groups or classes these are to be divided. For there is a compact group of terms connected with wealth itself, and with capital, the study of each of which throws light on the others, while the study of the whole together is a direct continuation, and in some respects a completion, of that inquiry as to the scope and methods of economics on which we have just been engaged. And therefore, instead of taking what may seem the more natural course of starting with an analysis of wants, and of wealth in direct relation to them, it seems on the whole best to deal with this group of terms at once. In doing this, we shall of course have to take some account of the variety of wants and efforts, but we shall not want to assume anything that is not obvious and a matter of common knowledge. The real difficulty of our task lies in another direction, being the result of the need under which economics, alone among sciences, lies, of making shift with a few terms in common use to express a great number of subtle distinctions. Section 2. As Mill says, in Logic Book 4, quote, "The ends of scientific classification are best answered when the objects are formed into groups, respecting which a greater number of general propositions can be made, and those propositions more important than those which could be made respecting any other groups into which the same things could be distributed." End quote. But we meet at starting with the difficulty that those propositions which are the most important in one stage of economic development are not unlikely to be among the least important in another, if indeed they apply at all. In this matter, economists have much to learn from the recent experiences of biology, and Darwin's profound discussion of the question, Origin of Species, Chapter 14, throws a strong light on the difficulties before us. He points out that those parts of the structure which determine the habits of life and the general place of each being in the economy of nature are as a rule not those which throw most light on its origin, but those which throw least. The qualities which a breeder or a gardener notices as eminently adapted to enable an animal or plant to thrive in its environment are, for that very reason, likely to have been developed in comparatively recent times. And in like manner, those properties of an economic institution which play the most important part in fitting it for the work which it has to do now are for that very reason likely to be in a great measure of recent growth. Instances are found in many of the relations between employer and employed, between middleman and producer, between bankers and their two classes of clients, those from whom they borrow and those to whom they lend. The substitution of the term interest for usury corresponds to a general change in the character of loans, which has given an entirely new keynote to our analysis and classification of the different elements into which the cost of production of a commodity may be resolved. Again, the general scheme of division of labour into skilled and unskilled is undergoing a gradual change. The scope of the term rent is being broadened in some directions and narrowed in others, and so on. But on the other hand, we must keep constantly in
Sample complete. Ready to continue?